Hello, everyone. So, after writing your introduction and literature review, the next section should be your method section, usually referred to as methodology or materials and method. And that's a very important aspect of your work. And I will show you some few steps how to do that. So, the method section is quite simple, it shows how the research was done and someone could pick up your work and try to replicate what you've done. It just shows that you did it properly. And in our field, it's quite very important because it shows how accurate you are. And then that's a section that most external examiners they look at. And the quality of your results will depend on your method section because it's going to show if you did it the right way, and everyone is going to see what you did, and there's no hanky panky about it. The purpose of the method section is quite simple. Number one, we want to see what you did step by step, yeah, and you have to show why you decided to use any of those methods. So you don't just assume you want to do this. You have to give a reason why you did that. For example, in MedLab, if you have to use standard microbiological techniques instead of using molecular biology, you could explain that maybe because of resource and equipment, you decide to do standard. You justify your reasons for why you're using a particular method. So maybe the other person might decide to use another method. Yeah. And you also showed that your approach was valid and you got the right ethical permission to do that research. Just imagine your method section like recipe. So if you want to cook, you have no idea of how the food is to be cooked. You follow a recipe. It says take half teaspoon of chicken seasoning, half teaspoon of garlic, half teaspoon of whatever spice. Someone just follows those methods and arrive at the same conclusion. There are different components of a method section. This is not like strict. It can be changed depending on the kind of research you're doing. The first is the research design, and you have the study area or where exactly you're conducting that research. What population? What is that? What group of people are you studying? Remember your mini project assignment. I did send the message back. Be specific. You can't just say undergraduate. So undergraduate, is it the undergraduates worldwide? Is it undergraduates in Nigeria? Is it undergraduate in Africa? Undergraduate in Bielsa? So you need to be specific. That's the study population. Then we have the sample size and what technique did you use to sample to get that sample? What instrument did you use for data collection? How did you collect the data? And finally, data analysis. So these are quite important aspects, and you also add the ethical consideration. Like I told you, you don't just collect data from people or even animals. You need to have that ethical permission because it's quite important in every form of research. Sometimes you might have to add limitations in your method section. So just put that in the back of your mind. So let's look at what research design means. This just defines your structure of your study. What exactly did you do? You explain what your study is. Is it descriptive? Is it cross-sectional? Is it experimental, or you are comparing? So you explain. So when someone picks your research, they have an idea of what's the structure of your research. For example, the mini project you guys are doing, for example, this study adopted a descriptive cross-sectional design using structured questionnaire to collect information from undergraduate students. So this is just an example, and you should have it as a subheading in your materials and methods section. Then your study area, you need to describe where your research was carried out. Is it in Amasoma? Where is Amasoma? I have no idea. Just imagine, no one has an idea. So you describe it. Is it in your village? Or if it's in Bayelsa State, you describe Bayelsa State. The information is out there on the internet. Where is Bayelsa located? You need to describe that. And you must always put reference because you got that information from somewhere. You include the name of the institution. So I'm expecting to see Niger Delta University. I'm expecting to see the department. It might even be a community. So sometimes you do your research. It might be in Okolobri, it might be Yenegua, it might be somewhere else. Yeah, so you need to describe, and you should mention the population, the size, location. All should be relevant to your topic. So, for example, I have study was conducted in the Department of Medical Lab Science, Niger Delta University, Wilberforce Island, Bayelsa State, Nigeria. So that describes where the research was carried out. And institution is there, department is there, and it says the population size, we have like 4,500 undergraduate students across all 5 levels of study. So you're describing where the research was carried out. You've made um, them know about the population size, the location, and all this is relevant to the topic. And the next thing is the study population. You identify who those participants are. So undergraduate students, the 400 level students, are the 300 level students, are they, you describe who those participants are. It's quite important for us to know your study population. You describe the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So for most of you, I did say you should limit it to year 4 students because of data collection. So inclusion, you say all year 4 students were included in the study, and exclusion criteria, anyone that is not a year 4 student is excluded. If your study is based on women or men, so inclusion in female, every other person is excluded. Males are excluded. Yeah. It might be pregnant women, it might be um, primary school children. Yeah, so you describe that inclusion and exclusion criteria, and I'm hoping to see that in your work. Then sample size and sampling technique. How many participants were included and how they were selected. So you need to state how many participants. See, 500, 70, 50. I said minimum of 50, and um, and how they were selected. There are several sampling techniques. I think you're going to learn that in one of the other lecturers. So sampling technique, you need to explain what's that. Is it random sampling? Is it stratified? There are different sampling techniques. So you might not be specific here. Use random sampling, that's fine. I just want you to have an idea of how this is done. Sample size is very important. I've explained earlier how you can generalize based on a small sample size, and that will give you wrong interpretation. So sample size is very, very important. And some of you, I did say sample size when you were kind of dogged, you wanted to do one undergraduate. And I was like, are you able to collect 20 something samples from NDU student, 20 something responses? And you realize that it's going to be difficult. Yeah. So sampling is very important, and the sample size. You don't just decide that, okay, I'm going to work on 10 samples. No, there's a way that sample sizes are calculated, and there are formulas to calculate that. But for your mini research, I said your minimum should be 50, nothing less than 50. I'm going to teach you how to calculate sample size during our classes. Hopefully, we'll have time. There are formulas, and it's just for you to impute what your error, percentage error, and all those stuff. So it's not too difficult. I'm going to explain that to you. Then you also have to describe your data collection. How did you collect that data? For this particular mini project, it's a questionnaire. So you could describe that data were collected using self-administered structured questionnaire. Some of you had sections. If you don't have sections, that's fine. You could just say data were collected using self-administered structured questionnaire. That's fine. I just want to see um, this structure in your method section. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just have the hands During your final year, you and your supervisor, you're going to streamline everything based on your area of specialization. Then the next thing is method of data collection. How did you collect it? Describe how and when data were collected. For example, questionnaires were distributed. Did you do it? Did you give them hard copy or did you do it online? If you did it online, how did you do it? Did you use Google Forms? Did you use Monkey Survey? There are several forms that you could use online. So you need to explain, you need to write it. Yeah. Show how that data was collected. It's research. Just imagine someone is going to pick that same topic and try to recreate it, replicate it. If they follow your steps that you've written out, will they achieve close to what you've achieved? That's the aim of the method section. Then the next part is the data analysis. This is quite important. I know we haven't done this, but we're going to do that. And like I said, I will explain. I'll try and teach you one, either chi-square or student t-test. Yeah. Data analysis, you explain how data were organized and analyzed. So you're going to do that. You explain, mention tools that you use, Excel, SPSS, can be manually, and the statistics used. I'm going to explain all this to you, but it has to be in your method section. It's quite simple. The previous set, they use Excel, and I will show you how to do that on Excel, which is simple. You can do get graphs, bar charts, pie charts, line graphs, and all those stuff. You can get it in Excel. I know XPSS, there is a paid version. Yeah, and there's also a free 1 month version. But if you don't know how to use it, that's when you're going to struggle. I'm not going to ask you to go and do this manually because this is Y2K. Things have changed and you could do this all online. But you need to understand how to do it. Have an idea of how it's done. So in case each of these techniques, yeah, these softwares fail, then you can also do something out of it. So, for example, data were entered into Microsoft Excel and analyzed using descriptive statistics such as frequency and percentage. I'm sure everyone here can do percentage. So you have 400 level students. If let's say you're 70 and you have 20 men and 50 females. So what's the percentage of men? What's the percentage of you could calculate all that. So it's still statistics. Yeah, I just want to see some form of statistics, but I'm going to teach you that before you move on to the next section. Results were presented in tables and charts. You should know how to do tables now. Charts, that's where Excel comes in. Chi-square, so you don't need to bother too much about this other bit. Like I said, I'm going to explain it to you, and I will teach you at least one of them so you understand statistical tests where you say something is significant, when you see p-value. Yeah, I'm going to explain how that comes about. It's really quite simple, so you don't need to break your leg. Just go one step after another, and when we get there, you're going to understand it. We've talked about ethical consideration, and in every research, they want to see that you follow the right ethical principles. Whether you're working with animals or human beings, you need that ethical consideration. Yeah. And you also say that participation was voluntary. If someone says, no, I don't want to do this, you don't force them. That's why I wanted you to, um, your sample population should be 400 level student, because you know this is a classwork, and it's for you to generate data, you need to fill someone else's questionnaire and they fill yours. Yeah, so it will be easy for voluntary participation. And you know, in your form, there's that part that your details are going to be confidential. There's no name, so there's nobody's going to link it back to you. So we need to see that in your research. And for this particular assignment, I also want to see that. Yeah. Then limitations, you could add that any factor that affected your data collection. Maybe some people um, refuse to fill the questionnaire. You had problems. It might be internet or whatever. Yeah, you need to put your limitations and and say why what happened. So don't tell me that you didn't have enough sample, because I want all year four students to fill questionnaires for each other. It's a part of your coursework. You could say this study was limited to one department, which is med lab. So your result that you're getting does not generalize all students in NDU. Trust me, it's limited. Yeah. Some other person can see your work and say, since they did it in med lab, I think I need to do something like this in pharmacy. Okay. So, but following your method, it will help the person to say, okay, this is the step by step approach that I'm gonna use. Yeah. So I hope with this that's 15 minutes. Yeah, it should be quite simple and easy for you to write your method section. And use past tense. Study was conducted, not say the study is or the study will be conducted. That's what propose that you use future tense. So you always use past tense, and it should be clear. Don't start explaining too much grammar or any discussion. Just explain what you did. Yeah. And use subheadings. I've given you several subheadings. So I need to see those subheadings. Yeah. Do not copy. I don't want to see copy and paste. Please just tell me what you did. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect grammar. Just tell me what you did, exactly what you did. Just imagine if I pick up your materials and methods section, can I recreate what you've done? So, yeah, for everyone that has done the introduction, literature review, you can move on and start writing your materials and methods section, which is your chapter 3. All right, start writing, and we'll see in class. I'll still explain this all over and put some other stuff. Yeah, so this is just a short video for to know what to do. All right, thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.